What's up, y'all? Come on in. Let me ask you something. Were you ever labeled the black sheep of your family? The problem child? The one who didn't fit in? The one who was too much or too sensitive or always causing trouble? But then you grew up, did the work, faced your inner child, and realized you weren't the problem? They were? Today, we're talking about what it really means to be the black sheep and why that label might have been the best thing that could have ever happened to you. So let's lock in. Being called the black sheep hurts, especially when it comes from your own family. The people who were supposed to love you, protect you, nurture you, they're the same ones who made you feel like you didn't belong, like something was wrong with you, like you were the issue. But here's what nobody tells you when you're young. Sometimes you're labeled the black sheep not because you're broken, but because you refuse to go along with the program. You refuse to act like the things you saw and witnessed were normal. You refuse to stay quiet. You refuse to pretend everything was okay when it really wasn't. And that's what made you a threat to everybody. So they labeled you, they punished you, they made you feel like you were the crazy one for speaking up. They made you feel like you were the problem for reacting to the trauma they put you through. But now that you're older, now that you've done the work and gone back to face your inner child, you realize the truth. You weren't the black sheep because you were messed up. You were the black sheep because everyone else was messed up. And you were the only one honest enough to speak on it. So let's talk about what really happens when you're raised in dysfunction and labeled the black sheep. You weren't acting out because you were a bad kid. You weren't acting out because you were in pain. You were angry because you had displaced sadness. You weren't difficult because you lacked love. You saw things no child should ever see. You experienced things no child should ever experience. And you spoke up. When you reacted, they punished you for it. They made you feel like the problem was your reaction, not what you were actually reacting to. So what happens is you start believing it. You start thinking that something is wrong with you. You start carrying shame for things that were never your fault, and that shame follows you into adulthood. You become sexually advanced because you saw that as connection. So you lack emotional connection because you were starved of it. You start fighting as an adult because you couldn't defend yourself as a minor in certain situations you should have never had to endure. You're hyper vigilant, you're defensive, you're ready to do damage at the first sign of a threat because now you got some height and size on you. You ready to tear some shit up. And subconsciously, you're still trying to protect that little version of you who can protect themselves. Eventually, whatever you didn't get at home, you went and found it in the streets. You found validation in the wrong places. You found love in people who didn't even love themselves. You found acceptance in environments that were just as toxic as the one you came from because that's all you knew. That's what felt familiar. And the cycle continues until you stop, until you go back, until you face that inner child and look at yourself in the mirror and own up and become your own protection and your own healing. Here's the truth they don't tell you about being the black sheep. You were set apart for a reason. You didn't fit in because you weren't supposed to. You were different because you were meant for something different. But first, you got to do the work. You got to go back and face that inner child. You got to look at that pain you've been carrying and stop running from it. Because hurt people hurt people. And you know your heart is good. You can't keep passing that hurt on to others. That's where shadow work comes in. Shadow work is about facing the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, the anger, the shame, the fear, the trauma, the parts you buried because they were too painful to look at. But until you face them, until you shine a light on them, they control you. Shadow work teaches you to forgive yourself, not because what happened to you was okay, but because carrying that guilt, that shame, that anger, it's only hurting you now. It's keeping you stuck. It's keeping you from becoming who you're meant to be. Shadow work teaches you to forgive the people who hurt you, not for them, but for you. Because holding on to that resentment is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. They moved on. They might not even remember, but you're still carrying that hurt, and it's time to put it down. Shadow work teaches you to self soothe, to give yourself the comfort, the validation, the love that you didn't get as a child, to become the parent to your inner child that you needed back then. And here's what happens when you do the work: you realize you're not a victim. Yeah, bad things happen to you. Yeah, you were hurt. Yeah, you were damaged by people who were supposed to protect you, but you didn't let that define you. You didn't become a product of your environment. You didn't walk through life with a victim mentality. You still accomplished your goals. You're still pushing with a purpose. You're still standing, and that's power. Let me tell you something that changed my life. The black sheep eventually realizes he's not the black sheep at all. He's the shepherd. Think about that. Shepherds lead. They protect their flock. They fight off wolves. They don't let any sheep wander off without the herd. And if one sheep gets lost, the shepherd goes back to save that one sheep without sacrificing the rest of the flock. That's who you are. You were set apart because you have strength, you have vision, you have purpose, you have the ability to see what others can't see, to feel what others won't feel, to speak up when others stay silent. Being the black sheep doesn't mean walking around with a black eye. It's really the story of the ugly duckling that turns out to be the beautiful swan. You were never ugly. You were never broken. You were just in the wrong environment. And now that you've grown, now that you've healed, you see yourself for who you really are. You're not the problem. You never were. You were the solution. You were the one who broke the cycle. You were the one who refused to pass down that trauma. You were the one who said, this stops with me. And that takes courage. That takes strength. That takes a level of self-awareness and discipline most people will never have. So don't let anybody steal your shine. Don't let anybody make you feel small. Don't let anybody convince you that being different is a bad thing. Your difference is your power. Your pain is your purpose. And the fact that you've been set apart means you have greatness in you. So activate it. Use your pain to empower others. Use your story to help someone else break free. So let me bring this home real quick. If you were the black sheep, if you were the one labeled as the problem, if you were the one who didn't fit in, I need you to hear this. You were never the problem. You were the disruptor. You were the cycle breaker. You were the one strong enough to see the truth and refuse to live a lie. And now that you've done the work, now that you've faced your inner child and healed those wounds, you get to step into your true identity. Not as the black sheep, but as the shepherd, as the leader, as the one who protects, who guides, who refuses to let anyone else go through what you've been through. And if you go to fix something with someone you hurt and they're not open to it, leave them alone. You're not the same person you used to be. Let go of the guilt complex. Forgive yourself. Forgive them for not forgiving you. The cycle stops now. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by the label. You're not defined by the label they gave you. You are defined by the label You giving yourself right here, right now, today. The black sheep is really the phoenix, and you are rising. If this message hit you, drop a comment and tell me, were you the black sheep in your family? And if so, what's the one thing that you're doing now as far as doing your inner work that's helping you heal your inner child and it's transforming your life inside and out? If you haven't begun your journey, grab my shadow work journey journal in the description, because it's specifically for this. It's going to help you face your pain, forgive yourself, and step into your power. I appreciate y'all giving me your time tonight. Be the shepherd. Shake that black sheep nonsense. And as always, I love y'all, man. All gas, no brakes. Lock in. Peace.